Warning, spoilers ahead. Welcome everyone to Kaifoon's Cove. I, of course, am the one and only Kaifoon, the Kaifooniest of Kaifoons. Today, I bring you a video compiling my thoughts on The Last of Us 2 leaks. I did just recently do my Retro-Speculative of the first game, and while I can completely understand the sentiment of being bummed about spoilers, I do take issue with some of the things I've been hearing online. From people seemingly complaining about the story being a misfire and making no sense, all the way to crazy-ass claims like somehow Naughty Dog are tricking their fanbase into buying the second game. Now, to be clear, the purpose of this video isn't to say other people are wrong or not justified in feeling how they do. We are all entitled to our own opinions. And I just want to share my thoughts and hope that you guys will too down below. Now again, these are just my opinions and you don't have to agree with me in any way. Also, this video will contain spoilers, obviously, but I will not be displaying any of the leaked material in this video. So, if you have no intention on spoiling The Last of Us 2 for yourselves, you have been warned. Still here? Good. Now then, let's get started. To start all this off, let's get the leaked story points out of the way now. What we've learned from the leaks is that in the second game, we will be spending about 50% of the game playing as the newly introduced character Abby. Now, Abby's mission, it would seem, is to hunt down Joel and Ellie and enact some revenge on the pair for their part in her parents' deaths. Supposedly, Abby was a child of some of the people we, the players, killed with Joel at the end of the game, saving Ellie from the Fireflies. Not only will Abby kill Joel and Ellie, but we will also have to contend with a new group of religious cult enemies along the way. With justice served for Abby, the woman runs off, fearing Ellie's allies will hunt her down, continuing the cycle of revenge, the killing only begetting more killing. This is what so many people freaked out about, what drove so many to say that The Last of Us 2 is over before it even started. I don't mind spoiling things for myself at all. It just gives me more to talk about. So the day the leaks dropped, I immediately searched them out. I have to say, by the furor of what was going on online, I figured something crazy like Ellie killing Joel or Ellie turning into some kind of super cordyceps. Instead of what I got was everything I considered to be an eventuality. What I saw, I honestly feel, was an appropriate continuation from where The Last of Us left off. As far as the overall story of the second game is concerned, I find it completely compelling. In my mind, it always felt a little wrong to consider Joel a hero. Despite acting heroically in the first game, I mean, the man we're introduced to in The Last of Us is completely broken, violent and dangerous for the purposes of surviving in a world that requires it. David from the first game puts it best, I think. You kill to survive. And so do we. We have to take care of our own by any means necessary. Hell, we even have characters that resent what they had to do to stay alive in this world. I point to Joel and Tommy for this one. You survived because of me, says Joel, and Tommy responds with a curt, wasn't worth it. At the end of the first game, when Joel swears things went down the way he said they did, as opposed to what really happened with the Fireflies, that to me is earmarking that conversation for later. Like, we will come back to this at some point. I dare say, a cliffhanger. Of course, we all figured at some point Ellie would need to learn the truth. It just seems odd to me that people find the storyline of Abby hunting down Joel and Ellie being out of left field. To me, it makes perfect sense that at the very least, Joel would need to face the consequences of his actions. Joel himself, I think, would agree. Well, no matter how hard you try, I guess you can't escape your past.
The pharmacist.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. No matter what, you gotta find something to fight for. This quote, I feel, is so important to understanding my points about Abby as a character. As I see it, Abby is motivated not only by what it takes to survive in this crazy world, but also in the chance she may have at one day avenging her parents. Almost like a zombie apocalypse Bruce Wayne in some respects. A character motivated by the loss of her family, almost like Joel himself in some ways. A chance to explore what happens when you have to grow up in this world with only one thing to look forward to. All in all, I feel the potential of Abby has as a character far outweighs any negatives people may have towards her. What can I say? People like bad guys. Maybe that's one reason we like Joel so much. He wasn't some saint. He was someone we could relate to. And I feel the same is true for Abby. regardless of whether or not she kills Joel and Ellie, regardless of the fact that she may be a woman, a lesbian, possibly trans. Being different doesn't have to be the same thing as being misunderstood, as being unrelatable. And I personally think Abby has that relatable potential, if not in who she is, then at the very least in her mission. Justice for her slain parents. It doesn't matter if Abby is a lesbian trans one, so long as she is handled with the same care and realism that the rest of the franchise is built on. As for the people who say it's too on the nose and that Ellie's sexual orientation and gender weren't central to the plot of the first game, I say bullshit. Ellie having feelings for Riley is what drew them into the situation where Ellie got bit. While her being a lesbian isn't central to the events of the main game, it is central to her as a character, to her as a person, and is therefore just as important. There is no reason to believe The Last of Us 2 will handle Abby with any less care and realism than they handled Ellie in the first game. Meaning, while those things aren't necessarily central to the plot, they are for sure central to the character as they relate to people. I see no agenda for the second game other than the one established by the world of the first. A world that wants to be as grounded in realism as possible, that wants you to see yourselves in these survivors, both good and bad. Also, this idea that the characters are being made less feminine is absolutely hilarious. Besides the fact that there is a lot of gray area in how you define feminine, the simple truth is that the world doesn't care. The Last of Us has never been filled with beautiful people, rather real ones. Women and men in this world do what they need to do to survive, and that doesn't always line up with what people would say is feminine. Point being, Naughty Dog is committed to making their characters as real as possible. So yes, in this world, women who are strong and ready to throw down is what I would expect. Now we come to a point that I honestly don't even understand. Some people seem rabid at the idea that there is a religious cult in this game serving as some kind of primary antagonist. First off, people, as in non-infected, have served as a primary enemy almost as much if not more than the cordyceps. Most of the crazy shit that happens to you in the first game is a result of good old-fashioned belly-bred people. No infection necessary. On top of that, we see groups of The Last of Us form around commonality like hunting and killing people. Oh, and of course eating them. Is it too much of a stretch to think that a group could form around a religion in this world? On top of that, now consider someone like Ellie forming a cult. I mean, she's immune to the cordyceps, which would offer some degree of clout, right? Like, she can convince people she's the second coming. Secondly, after all this time, now some 30-something years after the outbreak, of course people are more of a problem than the cordyceps. Most of this world has written off the idea of a cure by this point. People have learned the ways of the plant zombie. They know what's wrong with the infected. But, like in the real world, it's other people that seem to elude our understanding. I think Ellie said it best. What the fuck is wrong with these people? As for the ones saying that Naughty Dog was trying to trick their fanbase, or that they don't want to but have to buy this game, you can all go to hell. Seriously, no one is being made to buy this game, even if you review games for a living. If truly you don't want to support The Last of Us 2, then don't. Explain to your audience that you just aren't interested in the game, but don't spread this lie that you feel tricked and that you don't want to, but you have to buy this game. Be an adult and choose not to. Naughty Dog made the game they wanted to make, the experience they wanted their fans to have. They don't owe anyone anything when it comes to the story they tell, however. I'll let you in on a little secret. You can like something in part without liking all of it. Take Star Wars, for example. Some people hate the prequels. Some people hate the sequels. Some people hate the originals. Regardless, we can all agree we like some things about Star Wars and we hate others. If you don't like The Last of Us 2, that's fine. You can still like the first game. It's okay that things change, though, even if we don't always like the changes. Like I stated at the end of my Retro-Speculative of the first game, knowing a game's story or plot beats is a far cry from actually experiencing the story through the medium of the game itself. While there are reasons I choose sometimes to forgo taking in too much of a story beforehand, I would never say something was ruined because I already knew. Now, that's obviously a personal thing that we each decide for ourselves. Some of us like spoilers, some don't. That said, I'm sure every one of us has an experience of something being spoiled, but still loving that thing, because of the experience we had with it on an individual level. Each of us can decide for ourselves if we want to experience a game. Like I stated before, no one is making you buy The Last of Us Part 2. Another thing I keep hearing online is how the sequel is so focused on people getting revenge, that it plays out as a cheap fanfiction. That somehow, because Abby seeks revenge for what has happened to her at the hands of Joel, that it feels forced or unnatural. So what? Should Abby not want to seek out revenge, or I guess vengeance, or justice even? The entire first game's story plays out because of revenge. Joel and Tess getting revenge on Robert is what leads them into the plot of transporting Ellie. As for the comparisons to God of War and Kratos, why? I mean, I get what people are saying, that you can make a meaningful point out of acknowledging the cycle of revenge and wanting, even acting, to make it end. But in the case of The Last of Us, they went a different route. That's not to say the franchise couldn't get there, story-wise at some point, but God of War has a couple more games under its belt setting up the transition we see in Kratos. On top of that, Kratos isn't Abby. These characters find themselves in circumstances that are distinctly different from one another, but even if you looked at them the same, how many people would say Kratos killing Ares was justice, not just revenge? How many of us would say, if we were in Abby's place, not want Joel dead? Would Kratos? I know I would. I also know I want some Kratos. Ah yes, I have saved the best for last. Of all of the things I keep hearing online, the one that drives me most insane is that The Last of Us 2 seems so violent. That Ellie and Abby are so brutal and vicious in the trailers, and that the game seems like it's setting up to be this really bloody massacre. To that I say, well yeah, duh. I mean, how could you play the first game with all of its lighting people and cordyceps on fire with Molotovs and bricking people in the face with scissors taped to seemingly everything, and say the second game has no precedent to be violent itself? Not even looking at Joel and his actions from the first game, Ellie alone, even as a child, is crazy violent. Stabbing people in the knees and necks, shooting fools in the head, hunting down a full-grown deer and then escaping a bunch of cannibals after introducing one of those cannibals to a fucking cleaver. This is a violent world that requires violence to survive in it. Was everyone expecting something else? Now when we do bring Joel into the mix, we're given a man who has spent the bulk of his adult life killing people and doing whatever it takes to survive. Now he finds himself raising a 14-year-old girl, and with his past, how is he supposed to tell that girl not to be violent? That she doesn't have to go the same route that he went? Yes, that was an Eminem and Dr. Dre reference. And, well, there you have it, everyone. My thoughts on The Last of Us 2 story leaks and some things I've been hearing online about them. I hope you enjoyed your time with me again, and I invite you all to comment down below on your thoughts. And of course, feel free to like, share, and subscribe at your leisure. It is greatly appreciated. Like I said in my retrospective, I'm still extremely pumped for the experience The Last of Us 2 is going to offer, and look forward to bringing everyone a retrospective of the second game once it does release. Until then, however, I will see you guys next time this Typhoon rolls into his cove. Later, and lots of love.
Oh, nice.
That is an ultra kill. Angel Knives throws her fists in the air. You win.
Fuck yeah, I win.